Hello everybody. How are you? Happy Friday. I'm just finishing my brow here. They were driving me insane. Okay, guys. Today I want to talk to you about mature skin and how do you know which foundation type is best for your skin. Okay. Now, this is one of the most common questions that I get is, especially with mature skin, is what type of foundation is best for my skin. Now, what I have found is that it's all a preference. However, there are, sorry, I have like hair in my face from putting it up. What I have found is that it's a preference, but these are going to be some great suggestions for you guys, especially when we're dealing with mature skin types and knowing what is best for skin types. Okay, so I'm going to do matte on one side and I'm going to do dewy on the other side so you can kind of see the difference and kind of make an educated decision based on what you think is best for you, because there's no right or wrong. These are just suggestions, right? So it doesn't matter if you're going to be doing dewy or if you're going to be doing a matte look. You want to always, especially if you have mature skin, you want to always use like an SPF on your face, moisturizer type thing. And what I'm using today is actually a moisturizer, primer, and SPF. And it is a zinc oxide. So it means that it's coral reef safe, but also it has chemical free SPF in it. So it's gonna work as a primer for your skin. Hi Peggy. It's gonna work for your skin. This SPF is. And so in the winter time, I mostly wear a spray primer, but in the summertime, I love using this 30 SPF perfect sunscreen. It really works really good, especially for in the summertime and keeping your skin protected. Okay, so no matter what your skin type is, you want to make sure that you're prepping and priming it with a good moisturizer, SPF, that kind of thing. Now, if you are the type that has oilier, mature skin, which happens quite a bit, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to wear an SPF because you can feel kind of thick and cakey. So if you're putting on a moisturizer or putting on an SPF and then putting on a moisturizer, I can see where you could probably feel that way. That's why I say look for something that's in that family, so you can just kind of do it all in one, so you don't feel like you're using tons of product on your face, especially in the summertime. It can be way too much. Okay. Hi, Annie. Okay. So again, I'm going to do matte on one side and I'm going to do dewy on the other side. Now, I am using all cream-based foundation. Okay. Because across the board, especially for mature skin, cream-based foundation is going to be your best friend. Okay. And I call it cream, but it's wax-based foundation, okay? Now, what's great is what I'm going to be showing you is 50% pigmented, okay? It's the highest pigmentation you can get on the market right now. Okay, it's the highest pigmentation that you can get. So again, we're going to do matte on one side and dewy on the other side. I am so red on the side of my face. It doesn't matter like what I do. I'm always red. So if you're looking for more of a dewy, you can get that with cream base. But those of you who like matte on one side, an alternative is you can still have a dewy look and be oily skinned. Okay. I'm oily skinned, especially in these areas right in here. Now, why do I say that? You just have to put the right thing in your foundation. Okay. So I always suggest a facial oil in your foundation if you're wanting a dewy look. Now, why a facial oil when you're oily? Oil attracts oil, right? Now, I don't mean go get coconut oil out of your cabinet or Crisco. I mean, I know you guys know that, but I'm just kind of, I've had people ask me if they could use coconut oil before, and I'm like, no, it'll clog your pores. So get yourself a really good facial oil. Now, I have a lot of redness and I have a lot of oil sometimes. So I use one that has palmarosa and sunflower in it. That helps with inflammation of the face, the redness. It helps with oil control. It helps with reduction in melasma, okay? But also my SPF and moisturizer also have anti-aging benefits. But I love this stuff by itself, but I put it in my foundation. Now you're like, well, why do you do that? Because it's kind of like double dutying. I like to put it in there and I like to just kind of mix it together. But when you have a cream-based foundation, wax-based foundation, and you mix a facial oil in it, you can get all types of different coverages across the board. You can get a thin layer foundation, or you can get a thicker base foundation. It just depends on what you want. You can even just mix it in with the SPF if you want to. I'm just showing you guys, like I'm just using my hand. I haven't even begun to use a tool yet, okay? So when you're using a cream-based foundation, you always wanna like warm it up, okay? Now we're not talking about like wax that you get and put in your Scentsy pot, right? We're talking about actual wax-based foundation, okay? So as you see here, I'm just going through and I'm just patting that in. Now, why is dewy in right now? Okay, so dewy looking foundation is the new fad because when your skin looks dewy, it looks healthy, right? So a lot of people, and I was a victim of this growing up, I always used, I'm just trying to get that crisp line right in here, guys. I always used matte base foundation because I grew up very oily skin. I grew up on sea breeze and Noxzema and apricot scrub, all of that fun stuff. Do you guys remember all that fun stuff? I grew up with all that stuff, okay? So what was happening was I was actually just stripping my skin because I was using all of these alcohol-based products, right? I wasn't educated on anything. I didn't know. So as you can see here, I have that dewy tint to it. Now, I didn't do any coverage with any concealers or anything. So you still see a little bit of redness, but because I had that facial oil in there, it made it more of a thinner coverage for me, okay? So it's not this thick, cakey type of look, right? So it's just a thin layer. It just gives me that kind of almost like that summer kind of glow, right? Now, I'm gonna grab my other foundation just because I want to show you guys with one that hasn't been used with any facial oil or anything on it, if I can find it. Now, what is great about cream base across the board when it comes to foundation, I can't find it, so I'll just have to do it without it. So across the board, when it comes to cream based foundation, it doesn't lay in your fine lines and wrinkles. It doesn't get into your pores. It lays the best with textured skin, okay? So I'm just telling you the benefits across the board, okay? Now, you don't have to use a facial oil. I only suggest that because it helps with balancing that oil production. So if your main concern is I don't want to use oil because I'm oily, it takes that thinking out of there, right? So we've got that dewy look over here. So I'm going to go over to the other side, but I'm going to use a matte foundation. Okay, if I can find it here. I'm going to use a matte foundation. Somebody moved my stuff and now I cannot find it. And I don't understand. Okay, so we're just going to use a matte, just a regular matte foundation. Okay. So I'm just pulling out some sort of cream that I had in my drawer. Okay, it's a little bit harder to rub on. Matte foundations are a little bit harder. Okay, however, I'm using the cream base, which is it's easy to apply. I just didn't put any facial oil. I totally just rubbed on my mascara. So we're just using this cream base. Okay. And so you can see the difference of how it is dewy over here and then how it's not as dewy. It has a little bit of dewiness to it, but not a lot, right? So you can still wear a cream-based foundation and look matte, right? Because a lot of people want to look matte. They don't want to look... Sorry, I'm just trying to find my translucent powder. So what you do is, if you want to get that matte look to your cream-based foundation, you want to get yourself what is called a translucent powder. Okay, or you can use an HD powder, which is our blurring powder. But this translucent powder is great, and you should even be using translucent powder over on this side to kind of set any areas, but I don't go crazy, right? So translucent powder is great for foundation just in general. But when we're looking at doing a matte look, I like to put my translucent powder on my sponge. Okay. And then it really gets in there. And it gives me that matte look. Now I'll show you on our HD powder how you can get the matte look as well. Okay, so these are our blurring powders. They're perfect color powders, but we call them blurring powders because they really blur the skin, and you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna take the powder. Do you see how it just blurred that area right in there? And I'm gonna just blur underneath here. Okay, I'm literally not putting hardly any on. I'm just grabbing like a tiny little bit. So some people use translucent powder. I like to use just the blurring powder. Okay, now I think a lot of us older generation grew up with the matte kind of look, and so it's kind of hard for us to kind of get away from it, and that's totally fine. So I kind of just jump around, and I'm kind of like, well, whatever I decide. You can even use a blender with it and just go in, and you can just pat it into there. I prefer, does the translucent powder work as a setting powder too? Yes, it does. That's why I think I put it in your Besties collection, I believe, because you had that in, I wanted you to have a setting powder. Yeah. So I'm just showing you guys how you can change it up. Now, in our Maze box this month, you can get a full size due date in it, along with a Sotox and a travel size, which is a little bit bigger than this one, primer. So, and that's only $42. It's like a $80, $90 value. So you can get our due date in that for only $42. It's crazy, guys. But do you see the difference? Now, the next thing that you can do to change it up, if you decide, well, I kind of want a dewy look, or if you want a matte look, okay? So, I always suggest setting an additional, and I know people are like, oh, well, why do I need a setting spray if I have a setting powder? So setting powder is great, but I always tell people you need like an insurance policy, especially when we were in the mask season or the summertime season. I like a little bit of an extra insurance policy. So the setting sprays that I recommend is this one because it has a temperature control on it. It's almost like a thermostat in your setting spray. It lasts up to 16 hours. So what it does, it has these little molecules in there. And when your body temperature starts to increase, these molecules soak up any oil, soaks up any extra like sweat, anything like that. So if I know I'm going to be out in the summertime, I'm going to sweat really bad, I'm going to use this. I use this all year round because I'm a sweater. Okay, so there is a normal one and then there is a matte one. So there's two different types, right? So I will use the matte one on the matte side to give me a matte finish, right? And then I'm going to use the normal one, okay? So I don't on this side, so it keeps that dewiness, right? So you can totally play around with it. And if you look here, you can see one side has the dewy look and the other side has the matte look. So you can play around with this as much as you would like to. There's no right or wrong way, but there's ways when you have different skin types where you can play. Sorry, I forgot I had mascara on and I totally rubbed my eyes when I was putting that foundation on. So you can tweak the way that you apply and it makes the world of a difference. You just have to know what things to add to your foundation. So like if you already have a translucent powder, I say use that. I just like this one because I have wrinkles to cover. So, and then when I'm doing my dewy look, I just use the translucent powder just a little bit on those areas that I make it a little bit of oiliness, right? So like in these areas, okay? And I lightly just apply it. So there's two different ways that you can do it. You can do a dewy look or you can do a matte look. And it looks great either way. It just depends what your preference is, and you can do it so many different ways. So don't forget that we have the due date in our Maze box this month. It's a full size and its normal value is $38 for the due date. And then the Sotox and then the the travel size primer is normally $18 or $20, I think it is. So you're already getting like $60 there. So it's about $80. So if you want more information about that, drop a fire emoji below and I can shoot you more information on that. So if you are struggling with knowing what is your perfect way of application, there's no perfect way. Okay. So all you have to do is decide, do I want a matte look or do I want a dewy look? Doesn't matter your skin type. Application is key. So if you want my step-by-step make sure you shoot me a message and I can get you that information totally for free, everything that I did step by step. Okay, so I hope you guys have a great Friday, and I'll see you guys later.